Hey everybody, this is Carl back again for another discussion video. Something I've been wanting to do ever since Horizon Forbidden West, or even after like my Moana spoiler review. By the way, check out my Disney Moana spoiler review, where I lightly touched on this subject that really got my imagination or creativity revving, because I really wanted to talk about this because uh I wanted to do it way before. Like, I should have done it a long while ago, but a couple of days ago I was like, no, I gotta do this while we're still in International Women's Month. And what's like a perfect topic to talk about than now than like a heroine's journey, like a woman's hero's journey. Uh because Moana was like, oh my god, that is such, and especially after my uh recent walkthrough of uh crap, what's that game? Keep want to say Forbidden, Forspoken. Especially after my Forspoken walkthrough, when it's like when you hear people like back in the day when you tell me you can't make a good story with a female lead, but it's like a plethora of examples, not just in movies but in video games, especially in like recent years. It's been like like very exceptional female-led stories that represent like the hero's journey very perfectly. And I will point out at least a couple that does not work, that kind of falls flat, in my opinion. Well, there's a considerable amount of opinions, when it comes to a couple of these individuals, but we'll get to that. But yeah, this is Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. It comes in like 3 acts, and once we go over like at least a few examples that I want to bring up, that represent these acts in perfect well, not perfect but near perfect clarity. Like Moana, Frey from Forspoken. You got Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, Wonder Woman from the movies, Elsa from Frozen, and things like that. It's just like such a well designed kind of characters. And Moana, like I said, so people behind those really knew what they were doing creating these characters. So it's like the 2 examples that I want to use for is like not working. Rey from the Star Wars Star Wars sequel trilogy, and the live action Mulan. Now the animated Mulan did like a hero's journey very perfectly, but the live action for some reason it's like fall flat, heavy flat, right on his face flat. So the first act, departure, and like the 5 stages in this first act is the call to adventure, refusal of the call, supernatural aid, the crossing of the first threshold, and belly of the whale. And it's kind of like Luke Skywalker or Harry Potter. This is like the good barometer of how they play well. And Moana, Frey, Wonder Woman, Aloy fit this narrative pretty well. As the call to adventure, it's like Aloy wants to be part of the tribe. She's just like unceremoniously, not her fault, being part of this exile because her adopted father was in exile, and she, of course, they always got that kind of obligatory Obi-Wan Kenobi wise mentor situation that typically don't last forever, that helps them along the journey or prepares them for this journey. Aloy has her adoptive father. Aloy has, her grandmother. Moana has a grandmother. Where when they're going off, because Moana has to try to get I was gonna call him the Rock. There's a little way to remember him, to help return the jade back to their goddess in order to restore life to the islands and the ocean. And so that is built incredibly well. It's just, you gotta get that. That is probably the keyest thing in my opinion, how that is done appropriately. And of course, you get these Mary Sues. I think the rival or the enemy to the hero's journey is like the Mary and Gary stews, where everything just works out for them because they're the main character. That's why people don't like certain things like live action Mulan. Perfect example. It's just that studios or writers, because they're afraid of to look misogynist, if they dare to have their main character struggle. And like, even as powerful as Elsa is, she struggles. And it's like, that's what we want our characters to do. They go through trials and tribulations when they go off on these journeys. And if you take that away, why are we watching them? And even with like Wonder Woman, as powerful as she is, she has some naivete on how the outside world and man's world works, where it's like, oh, I'll just go find Ares, defeat him, and the world of man will be a-okay now. Now, of course, like many people, like even I said when I did my spoiler review on Wonder Woman, it's like, yeah, I think it would probably be played a whole lot better if Ares wasn't the big bad. It's just like, life happens. People disagree, and sometimes even on the world's days erupts into war. And there's no evil mystical thing behind it. And so, they go on the call, they go on this journey and everything like that. Now, it's hard to say, apply the whole Mary Sue thing to Rey Palpatine. I'm not calling her Rey Skywalker because it's fucking dumb. But Rey isn't as egregious, but you're really pushing it with her, because it's like, oh, how does Rey just know how to wield a lightsaber, and she never touched one in her life before, but she just wields it? And it's like, like, God forbid you have, like I said, God forbid you have your character struggle. And you got initiation, the road of trials, the meaning of the goddess, woman as the temptress, or sometimes this man of temptress. Like you have Anna, who also going on her own hero's journey, has that idiot prince who's trying to take over and kill these sisters in the end, which, by the way, like I mentioned in my review of Frozen, really wouldn't have been needed as like a villain. He's like, you're throwing in a villain that is really not needed in this kind of story. Like Moana, kudos to her, because we don't need like a villain in that. It's like, it's just the journey. But you got like a men temptress in a way, atonement with the father, apotheosis, the ultimate boon, essentially, like, just trial, the death, or the descent into the underworld. You're going like, it's like, it's kind of like the Empire Strikes Back. Like sometimes the hero fails or falls or stumbles along the way because they don't know everything. They think they know what they need to do, but like with Moana, she like, oh my god, a man has to teach her. She got to teach her. Man or woman, doesn't matter. Non-binary, whatever. she doesn't know how to sail. Most other, studios will probably have her like, oh, she's a woman, she knows just how to sail. Why? Because she just that good. It's like, no. The Rock got this teacher who's an expert, who's the god of sailing and like transformation and what have you, teaches her how to sail like an expert because her people were sailors. So you got to be able to navigate the stars in order to, navigate the sea. And it's just, like, I just think that it was so well done. It's like, I like that. It's like, she of course has this like, sort of optimistic view, but she has a clear goal in mind. She wants to achieve that goal, but she needs help along the way. She just doesn't know everything. Ray just somehow just knows how to wield a lightsaber, or live action Mulan just can kick butt. But in the animated film, she knows how to fight because she was taught by soldiers or the general. Of course, they didn't know she was he was a she, but she became an expert fighter because she learned from the best under, dubious means, but, it happened. Of course, in the live action version, which I had to catch the highlights because I love the anime Mulan movie to death, and I do not care for their butchering of it because they're trying to be realistic, but you're having phoenixes and, witches and stuff like that, but it's like, oh, you want to be true to the historical accuracies, which is crap. I really want to know like behind the scenes, like the true behind the scenes logic behind certain decisions and like why they did what they did, because it's like all kinds of foul and like, you do a disservice to a lot of great actors involved. It's not their fault, but it's just like you could have just made this like if you want to depict it realistically, make it a realistic kind of thing, like a documentary or a biopic or something like that. You go all the way with it, commit to it. Don't include a witch or a phoenix or anything like that. But it was ridiculous. But you got to allow your heroes to struggle. I like the way like Aloy is just like even though she has a like a issue with the relationship with Silas, he's the one that has to tell her about certain things that she's not privy to, or learn along the way through her exploration in order to learn about her mother. And of course, she eventually learns that her mother was integral in the dystopian future that they're in, but also instrumental in the key in order to fix it, which will be Aloy. And of course, she fights robot dinosaurs along the way, but she falls and gets back up. People crap on Captain Marvel movie a lot, but I think eventually I will review that. I think she, that movie is done a good job with the hero's journey, because despite her power, she falls down. But the whole point of it is she keeps trying to hammer home to people that seems not to be getting it, that she gets back up. That's the whole point of a hero. Even when they fall, they learn to get back up. And one was powerful as he is like Superman. It's like, it's not the point for power. Of course, he fights supernatural beings with considerable power and might on their own accord, but by and large, it's about that. It's the, sometimes it's like ethics that she has to battle. Like Superman, it's not about like because that's why people think they can't write a good Superman story because he's too OP. It ain't about the powers half the time. It's about like the ideology he usually have to fight. People's like wrong way of thinking. He's supposed to be the light that guides them because they tend to go off path into the wrong. And same, that's the same goal as like Wonder Woman. Sometimes does he fight, not just for like her sisters, but for man as well, for people to come together. So that's what she tends to struggle with, especially when she's having this crisis. Like, oh my God, it's like there was nothing behind these people. They just fight. I mean, that's how it should play. Like, oh my God, they gotten to the point where they disagree so much they're causing like a huge war that's casualty on all sides, and it can't have that situation. As warrior, even though she's a warrior that wants to fight for peace. That's the ultimate goal. And it's just, God, when it's done well, it's done phenomenally well. Ray does, struggle somewhat, but more of maybe like not in the physical capabilities, but the mental capabilities, where it's like she's trying to learn where she's from kind of situation. They kind of botched that in the sequel trilogy, but and don't get me started on that with the whole director's like different points of view and stuff like that. But the struggle with like Kylo Ren and her when it comes to trying to get him back on the light side, but he's trying to tempt her into siding with him. Like, forget about the past, let it die, kill it if you have to. But that's not what she's about. She's struggling with that a bit because, like, she wants to know where she's from, what happened to her parents, even though by this point we know that I think the father was some kind of clone thing that kind of initially failed because he didn't have like the force powers that Palpatine needed to transfer himself to. So he cast him out. He eventually meet a person and birthed Rey, but to keep Palpatine away from her, they had to abandon her, blah, 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 blah. But, that's what she ultimately wants to know. But she's, seeing all these visions and by touching his lightsaber and, and meeting Leia and Han and eventually Luke and all this team, there is stuff there, but it's just, it's all over the place sometimes. Then you got like, even like Elsa, she's struggling to use her powers. There's a struggle there that she has to. That's the whole point with the song of letting it go. Is it's like she's been caged for so long. She's been told that her powers will hurt people, even though she didn't mean to hurt Anna. But it's, the threat is there. She's pretty much Rogue from the X-Men. It's like she can't control her powers, but in fighting herself, she's fighting what makes her her. And a key part is love, that she has to learn that, and then embracing who she is, and by letting her, her freak flag fly, she managed to control her powers, creating all these like fantastical ice sculptures and this castle and everything like that. But she's also smart, and she's wise been on her years, even pointing out how irresponsible it is for Anna to be hooking up with a guy, pretty much turning on his head with the whole Disney princess thing, with like meeting up somebody the first time and claiming his love at first sight, but it's idiotic meeting somebody and marrying them without knowing who they really are. Even the guy she ultimately ends up with points that out, how like, do you even know his last name? What's his favorite food? Blah, 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 blah. It's just like, why would you do that? It's idiotic. Then of course you got the return, refusal of the return, the magic flight, rescue from without, the crossing of the return of threshold, master of two worlds, freedom to live. I was like, like resurrection and rebirth, ascension, apotheosis, atonement. This is pretty much like, uh, uh, after the successful battle of, like, or at least achievement of the goal, or a successful battle of the enemy, sometimes you get returning home, a hero, and like, day is saved kind of thing, like Moana finally getting the green stone back to her goddess, restoring order, and then returning home, but not to the same degree. Returning home not to the same degree as you left. She now, being leader of her people, are, like, the days of old, sailing out from island to island, reestablishing different homesteads, and with food and land and everything like that, come out better than she started. And that's the whole thing. It's like coming out better than you started. Of course, Elsa didn't always remain as the leader of the kingdom, but we're sticking to the first movie. She now coming back as leader, with the love of her sister and Hans, I think that's the guy's name that she ends up with, and with the respect of her people and everything like that, and embracing who she is, and not fearing, fearing herself. Rey comes out better, but the whole taking on the Skywalker's last name, I really cannot agree with that. But you just, that aside, she's coming out better than she was. Finally stopping Palpatine for good, and going to Tatooine and Luke's old home, bearing the lightsabers, and essentially with renewed knowledge, essentially. Same thing with, like, someone like, Frey. I didn't get in with the Frey in Forspoken. Even though it's like, I love the character's, creation, was like, she's a little abrasive, but she got a good heart and everything like that. Even though I don't like the whole, in the end, with the choice between, like, leaving people behind or choosing to fight for them kind of situation, he's going to end up going to do. They didn't have to include that, personally. But, call to adventure, but sometimes it's a forced call to adventure. You like, sometimes heroes go through that too, where you're put in a position where you don't think is your fight. It's not my fight, but you're forced to be put in a situation where you got to defend people. Then you realize, the damage the enemy could do to innocent people. When that little girl Olivia died from the hands of one of the former queens of the land, whereas that forces her to step up when she formed this bond with this little girl. And it's like, I got this power, I gotta use it to stop these people. But then she does struggle along the way, when it's like, look, I just came to stop this one person. Now I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just wanted to get home, which caused an friction between her and a friend that she formed that had like a father that could be like a way to get home, but he ended up passing away. And now it's like, with the conversation with Cuff, she overhears, it's like, oh, that's all you want? You just want to go home? And of course, she takes her anger out on everybody, because like, she feels she's stuck there. I'm not trying to fight every, former queen who's crazier than the last, that kind of situation. But then one of them, messes her with the illusions and everything like that, and it's like, come to realize who her mother is and why she abandoned her. That part is the return. when she's like, coming back and fighting people that she does have a tie to, where she didn't think she didn't. She's half Altarian. I forgot the name of the people. And it's like, I'm coming back. I'm fighting for my people, like my mother did before me. Very Luke Skywalker. It's like, I'm a Jedi like my father before me. I'm an Altarian like my mother before me. And using the power these previous queens used to have in order to fight Cuff, who ultimately turns out to be like the bad guy that was going to annihilate this land. So like when it's done, the point of the discussion video that I'm trying to that I wanted to talk about is just like how well done the hero journey has been put forth. If the writers do it, I mean, you don't have to fault like everything. You can just do, maybe focus on one act, maybe, but there's no set rule. It's more so like obviously a guideline, but it's just like it's perfectly. It's like, I don't know. It's just personally, I think if you do follow the guideline, more often than not, you turn out a great character. But you also shouldn't make your character perfect, whether it's man, woman, or non-binary. The character cannot just be perfect. And this is more so a societal thing, because it's like, I'm afraid of looking misogynistic. Let's make sure, or maybe it's just the writers' room is, the Gen Z kind of kids. No offense to, not every Gen Z is built the same. They're not a monolith, but more often than not, you got like certain people of a certain young age who grew up very like, oh, this is how liberal, like very ultra liberal kind of situation gone way too kind of far. I think the TV show Velma is criminal against this, like guilty of this, whereas like a certain line of thinking there's got to be one particular way. If you think the other way, you kind of like, it's very echo chamber, and it's like, oh, she's a woman, hear me roar, got no issues. And oh, if a guy has a problem with it, or you learn from a guy, he's got to be misogynistic kind of a-hole. And it's like, no, like the characters that that listed, Wonder Woman, Aloy, Elsa, Frey, Moana, are good examples of how, like, what, like when I saw those characters, especially Frey, Moana, and Aloy, were the character adventure they were on followed the hero's journey so well. It was so well done. I praised it too. Like if you watch my walkthrough of Forbidden West or Forspoken, or even my spoiler review of Moana and Frozen, I said many a times, like, man, this hero's journey is done so exceptionally well that like you can see it play out as the scene goes, as each scene goes. You see the departure, you see the initiation, you see the return, and like Joseph Campbell's hero's journey play out beat for beat. Maybe not perfectly with everybody's eyes, but depending on how the writing goes, but you see like the guidelines somewhat play out in each act. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. I just wanted to bring that up. I always want to talk about this because I thought it was so well done, especially after Forspoken. It's like, no, I gotta talk about this at some point. And like for those people out there who wants to make a female-led story, well, even like with TV show format, it will help if you follow these guidelines, and also not make her perfect. Because like there's very little Gary Stews out there, but even if you're making a male-led story, they can't be perfect. And it's like, if you want to make sure, like, you know, everybody's treated equal, you gotta allow the woman to fail, struggle, get beat up sometimes. But how cool it would be by the third act when she rises up and kicks some ass, like you see in the animation Mulan movie. She used all the tools that she learned in order to combat the Mongol leader at the end. And even when she's fighting in a dress, he's fighting like, elegantly but fiercely. Moana, utilizing her navigation skills she learned from the Rock in order to trick that evil like lava monster and to go in one way while she's flipping the script and going a different way in order to get to that finish line of that goal. It's done so well if you allow the hero's journey to play out the way it needs to play out, and part of that is allowing the hero to struggle. And it's just like, I'm so against like that whole Mary Gary Stu thing that it has, like, the writers gotta stop being afraid of, because that's the thing is, like, the examples I point out, the couple of examples I point out, live action Mulan and Rey Skywalker or Palpatine, it can't be perfect. Yeah, and that's the point of this discussion. Like, I love female led characters too, Aloy being like probably like my biggest favorite in terms of video game female led characters. I love her character. She is an amazingly well done female led story, and the world around her is done exceptionally well. You put in the effort, you give a damn, you see it in the final product, and people pick up on that. Not critics, your average movie or at least the consumer in general, whereas movies or TV show or video games. It's just how I view it. I'm not sure how you guys view it, but leave a comment below. Let me know what female-led character, when it comes to like movie or video game, do you think really practice the hero's journey like exceptionally well in your eyes? I listed my favorites in recent memory, but yeah, I really want to do this video because it was like something I've been toying with for weeks now, and honestly, I mean, of course, like, not everybody's gonna listen to little me. Even by and large, most people who view certain content say that they don't care for this whole Mary Sue thing. They have certain female-led characters because studios are afraid to look misogynistic. But how misogynistic do you really look if you just make the character too perfect? She could of course be streetwise like Frey, but she doesn't know. You put her in a situation that she doesn't know, and she has to learn from other people in order to get wise to the situation. It's okay. But anyway, leave a comment, like this video. I will see you guys for another discussion video at some point, whichever kind of topic that like I feel like I really wanted to get off my chest. But if you have a particular topic, please check out my Patreon, where you can very affordable tier listings, but you can just go with the first tier if you have like a particular topic that you want me to give my thoughts and opinions on. Check out that tier list. It's just $1. I remember one viewer wanted me to do like a topic on video game character deaths, which you can check out. It's one of my earliest discussion videos up on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/talkativecarl. My other favorite videos that got a lot of views on is the discussion video about like the supporting characters of the Dragon Ball Z franchise needing their day in the sun, because it isn't always about Goku and Vegeta, and it's like they shouldn't be treated like just jobber cameos in other people's worlds. That they're competent fighters too, and they need to be treated with respect, which even by today after years of Dragon Ball Z, still not given their due, in my opinion. So you definitely check out that video. But I will see you guys tomorrow for more video game walkthroughs of RE4 Remake and Hogwarts Legacy. And pretty soon I will be, getting into Jedi Survivor within the next 3 weeks. So I look forward to that. And yeah, see you guys next time. Peace.